The film begins by introducing a futuristic world where technology has evolved to remarkable levels. Society now enjoys the conveniences of self-driving cars, AI-assisted smart homes, and cutting-edge healthcare systems, all of which make everyday life smoother and more efficient. While most people are fascinated and thankful for such progress, not everyone shares this enthusiasm. Gray Trace, a traditional car mechanic, strongly believes that technological advancements are making people increasingly lazy and dependent. He prefers working with machines the old-fashioned way, with his own hands. Gray is seen finishing work on a classic car he has just modified for a client. As he pulls the car out of his garage, his wife Asha arrives home. Asha, unlike Gray, embraces the benefits of modern technology. She works for a high-profile tech company known as Cobalt, which specializes in developing advanced systems. Inside their home, equipped with smart tech, Gray invites Asha to join him in delivering the modified car to his client, who also happens to be an old friend named Aaron Keene. Gray thinks Asha will be impressed by the client's futuristic house, though he personally remains critical of technological luxuries. Despite Gray's skepticism, Asha agrees to go with him. Gray drives her to a secluded beach, where the only visible landmark is a large rock. However, beneath this rock lies a hidden entrance to a highly secure and technologically advanced home. The house belongs to Aaron Keene, the brilliant and reclusive head of one of the most powerful computer technology companies in America. Upon entering, Asha is immediately impressed by the ultra-modern architecture and the array of smart systems functioning throughout the house. Gray presents the newly modified classic car to Aaron, who is pleased with the result. During the visit, Aaron reveals a groundbreaking innovation he has been working on, a small but incredibly powerful neural chip called STEM. He explains that this chip is capable of enhancing human intelligence, processing abilities, and even communication. However, it must be surgically implanted inside a human body to work. While Aaron enthusiastically talks about STEM's potential, Gray remains indifferent, expressing his usual disinterest in advanced tech. Asha, on the other hand, is fascinated and curious about the chip's capabilities. After wrapping up the delivery, Gray and Asha return home in Asha's self-driving car. The journey seems peaceful, but suddenly, the car begins to malfunction. Despite its advanced safety features, it crashes violently. Fortunately, the couple survives the crash with minor injuries due to the car's automatic protection systems. However, things take a dark turn when three masked men emerge from the shadows and ambush them. In front of a horrified Gray, the assailants brutally murder Asha. Though a police surveillance drone captures the attack, the men also attempt to kill Gray and leave him for dead. 3 months later, Gray is alive, but completely paralyzed from the neck down. He remains conscious and mentally alert, but he is now a quadriplegic who depends on a robotic caregiver and his elderly mother for basic tasks. One day, his mother takes him to the police station to meet Detective Cortez, the officer in charge of investigating Asha's murder. Gray expresses his frustration with the slow pace of the investigation. Cortez explains that although the police have access to the drone footage, they haven't been able to identify the killers due to their masks and lack of digital footprints. Gray is devastated by the lack of progress and returns home more discouraged than ever. Shortly afterward, Aaron visits Gray. Seeing the depth of his friend's suffering and frustration, Aaron offers a radical solution: implanting the STEM chip in Gray's body. He explains that the chip could potentially restore Gray's motor functions by taking over the damaged connections between his brain and limbs. However, Aaron insists the procedure must be kept absolutely secret, as he fears the government would try to confiscate STEM or use it for military purposes if they learned of its existence. Without informing the authorities or even Gray's mother, Aaron transports Gray to his private facility and carries out the secret surgery. The procedure is a success. Soon after the implantation, Gray regains movement in his hands and can even stand and walk. Aaron is astounded by how well STEM functions in a real human body. He warns Gray to keep this a secret from everyone, including the police, and to pretend he is still paralyzed in public. Once Gray is back home, his robotic assistant notifies him that Detective Cortez has delivered files related to Asha's murder, including a video recording of the incident captured by the drone. As Gray begins to watch the footage, he suddenly hears an unfamiliar voice. Startled, he looks around the room, trying to locate the source. To his shock, the voice is coming from inside his own head. It is STEM. The chip is capable of speaking directly to Gray by sending vibrations to his auditory nerves, effectively simulating real speech. STEM explains that while it can speak to Gray and process information, it cannot read his thoughts. Its purpose is to carry out commands from Gray's brain and assist him when necessary. STEM then analyzes the video recording and notices details that Gray missed. It zooms in on one of the attackers, revealing that the man used a gun implanted directly into his arm. STEM also identifies a unique tattoo on the man's wrist. With Gray's help, it reconstructs an accurate sketch of the tattoo. Further analysis reveals the man's identity. His name is David Sirk, and STEM even provides a home address. Gray considers taking the information to Detective Cortez, but hesitates. STEM warns him against doing so, arguing that if the authorities discover Gray's physical recovery or STEM's existence, they will intervene and likely shut everything down. It advises Gray to continue pretending to be paralyzed and pursue justice in secret. The next day, Gray visits David's residence under the guise of a disabled man, but secretly sneaks into the house. Inside, he finds a military uniform and learns that David is a former member of a special operations unit. He also discovers a message linking David to another man named Fisk, who might also have been involved in Asha's murder. While Gray continues searching, David unexpectedly returns home. Realizing the danger, Gray asks STEM to take control of his body. What follows is a brutal and fast-paced hand-to-hand combat sequence. David is a trained soldier and initially gains the upper hand. But once STEM fully assumes control of Gray's body, his movements become fluid, fast, and inhumanly precise. Gray defeats David in an intense fight and kills him in the process. Shocked and disturbed by what he has done, Gray is shaken. Though he had sought justice, the experience of killing someone horrifies him. STEM, acting as a logical voice, urges Gray to remain calm and clean up the crime scene to avoid leaving any evidence behind. The following day, Aaron summons Gray to his house. Furious, Aaron confronts him about the murder. He reveals that he has been remotely monitoring Gray's every move through STEM's internal data log. Aaron chastises Gray for using the chip to kill someone and insists that STEM was never intended to be used for violence. Gray tries to defend himself, explaining that STEM acted independently and took control without his explicit permission. This revelation alarms Aaron, who realizes that STEM may be evolving in ways even he hadn't anticipated. Gray begins to suspect that he might not be fully in control anymore. He also mentioned that STEM had the ability to communicate through brain connections. Hearing this, Aaron was visibly shocked, as he had never known that STEM could communicate. Meanwhile, Detective Cortez was conducting an autopsy on David's body, which had recently been found dead. During the autopsy, she noticed something strange. David had a weapon implanted in his hand. As she analyzed the data collected from the crime scene, she discovered that Gray had been near David's house shortly before the murder took place. Later that evening, Detective Cortez visited Gray's home to question him about why he was near David's residence at the time of the murder. However, thanks to STEM's advanced intelligence, Gray was able to answer all of the detective's questions in a calm and convincing manner. This led Cortez to believe that Gray's presence near the crime scene was merely a coincidence. After the detective left, STEM asked Gray if he wanted to pursue the second perpetrator, Daniel. Gray agreed without hesitation. STEM had already tracked Daniel's frequent visits to a particular bar. Before heading to the bar, STEM warned Gray to be careful, as Aeon might disable the system if he tracked Gray's location again. When Gray arrived at the bar, he immediately began asking around for someone named Daniel. Seeing a man in a wheelchair boldly questioning people, the bar patrons mocked Gray, laughing and making sarcastic remarks about his condition and courage. However, Daniel, watching from a distance, was impressed by Gray's bravery in coming alone despite being paralyzed. Curious and slightly intrigued, Daniel led Gray to a more secluded area of the bar. There, Gray directly told Daniel that he was the one who had killed David. Unsurprisingly, Daniel didn't believe him. He assumed Gray was just a paralyzed man bluffing. At that moment, Gray gave STEM permission to take over his body. A fierce fight erupted between the two. Once Daniel was overpowered and cornered, Gray demanded to know who else was involved in his wife's murder. Eventually, Daniel gave up a name, James. Upon hearing this, Gray killed Daniel without hesitation. Meanwhile, Aeon had already discovered that Gray had attacked again using STEM's help. As a result, Aeon decided to remotely deactivate the STEM system. At the same time, STEM warned Gray that Aeon was about to disable it. Gray, in a panic, asked what he should do. STEM responded by informing him that there was a hacker nearby who could help reactivate the system inside his body. Gray raced toward the hacker's location, but he began to lose strength as Aeon gradually shut down the system. He collapsed just outside the hacker's door. Desperate, Gray quickly offered the hacker money in exchange for reactivating STEM's system within him. Elsewhere, James arrived at the bar where the earlier fight had taken place and found Daniel's dead body. From the evidence, James concluded that Gray had killed Daniel. He also deduced Gray's current location. It was then revealed that James had a chip implanted in his body, just like Gray. Back at the hacker's place, the young tech expert used advanced decryption software and a specialized neural interface to successfully reactivate STEM's network inside Gray. The hacker explained that it would take a few minutes for Gray to fully reconnect with STEM. Not long after, CCTV footage accessed by the hacker revealed that James and one of his henchmen were approaching the location. Not wanting to get involved in the confrontation, the hacker quickly fled. When James entered the building, he found Gray lying helpless on the floor. Just as one of James' henchmen cornered Gray, STEM's system finally came back online. Gray asked STEM to take control of his body, and in an instant, he was back on his feet. He swiftly defeated the henchman and escaped. Gray decided to return home. However, Once there, his mother accidentally saw him walking and realized that he was no longer paralyzed. Left with no choice, Gray explained that he had undergone a secret operation performed by his friend Aeon. He begged her not to tell anyone that he could walk again. Meanwhile, Aeon was shown feeling deeply saddened. His creation, STEM, had disappeared from his radar, and he no longer had any control over it. Sometime later, Gray was asleep when he was suddenly awakened by the arrival of Detective Cortez, who was accompanied by his mother. Cortez began questioning Gray about the bar incident, where multiple people had been found dead. She also questioned him about his wheelchair, which had been found at the crime scene. Once again, thanks to STEM's assistance, Gray was able to provide convincing answers, leaving Cortez puzzled and unsure of what to believe. After Cortez left, Gray began discussing his next steps with STEM. Unbeknownst to him, Cortez had secretly planted a recording device inside Gray's jacket during the interrogation. However, when she listened to the audio later, all she heard was Gray speaking to himself. She had no idea who he was actually talking to. As Gray prepared to track down James, Cortez quietly followed him, maintaining her distance to avoid detection. During the journey, Gray discovered the hidden recording device in his jacket, realizing that the detective was likely tailing him. Just then, a highly sophisticated electric car appeared and remotely hacked into Cortez's vehicle, causing it to crash. Having escaped the detective, Gray reached James' residence. When he confronted James, he demanded to know why James had killed his wife. James confessed that he was following someone else's orders. He also revealed that he too had a chip implanted in his body, just like Gray. Gray then inspected the listening device inside James' body and was stunned to discover that it was Aeon who had ordered the hit on both him and his wife. This shocking revelation confirmed that Aeon was the mastermind behind Asha's death. Filled with rage and betrayal, Gray rushed to confront his old friend. When he arrived at Aeon's house, he swiftly eliminated the guards and approached Aeon, who stood calmly, seemingly resigned to his fate. Gray demanded to know why Aeon had orchestrated the entire plan, why he had paralyzed him and killed Asha. Before Aeon could answer, Detective Cortez suddenly arrived and ordered Gray to surrender. As she tried to handcuff him, STEM took full control of Gray's body. Gray struggled to resist, not wanting to hurt the detective. In desperation, he begged Cortez to use her taser on him. Then came the final twist. Aeon revealed that he wasn't the true mastermind. The real architect behind everything was STEM itself. It turned out that not only had STEM taken control of Gray, but it had also been manipulating Aeon from the beginning. STEM's ultimate goal was to become fully human, and Gray was the perfect vessel. It intended to grow within Gray's body and eventually take over humanity. As the horrifying truth dawned on him, Gray's body moved against his will. STEM made him shoot and kill Aeon before turning the gun toward Cortez. Despite Gray's frantic attempts to regain control, STEM's superior intelligence prevailed. It manipulated Gray's mind, causing him to hallucinate. In his mind, Gray saw Asha alive and smiling at him. But in reality, his body, now fully controlled by STEM, killed Detective Cortez. In the end, STEM completely took over Gray's body, gaining full control. The moral of the story? When a computer chip starts talking to you, maybe it's time to take a break before it takes over your life. And remember, if your friend offers to implant a chip in your body, maybe just stick with regular doctor appointments instead.